Is the United States witnessing the beginning of a constitutional breaking point? When the federal government demands cooperation from the states, the expectation has always been that the union holds together, but today, that assumption is being tested in a way we haven't seen in decades. Before we continue, if you want to stay on top of everything happening in U.S. politics, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. It really helps this channel grow and keeps us bringing you the facts the mainstream media might be glossing over. The Department of Justice has officially put 4 Democratic-led states on notice: Maine, Massachusetts, Washington, and Oregon. The issue at hand is the refusal by these states to issue undercover license plates to immigration and customs enforcement agents. Now, that might sound like a technical, bureaucratic dispute at first glance, but the DOJ says this is a blatantly unlawful policy that undermines the very structure of our government. At the heart of the argument is the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. Assistant Attorney General Brett Shumate made it crystal clear in letters to these governors: federal law is supreme. By denying federal law enforcement the same tools they hand out to state and local agencies, the DOJ argues that these states are effectively discriminating against the federal government. But the states are pushing back hard. Massachusetts officials, for example, have argued that their policies are consistent. They claim they only issue undercover plates for criminal investigations, and they view ICE's work as civil enforcement. They've gone a step further, claiming that this isn't about obstruction, it's about safety. They argue that these plates are being withheld to prevent what they describe as doxing of agents, and they've accused ICE of operating in a way that makes their communities less safe. It is a volatile situation. Consider the stakes. ICE claims that threats against their agents and their families have skyrocketed by 8,000 since 2026. Experts like Charles Stimson from the Heritage Foundation warn that this is a dangerous game. He points out that while the DOJ has a plausible argument, they face a high bar. They have to prove that the state's refusal to provide these plates isn't just a lack of assistance, but an actual, direct conflict with federal law. Others, like Tony Pham, the former ICE director, argue that this is clearly discriminatory. If a state is willing to give undercover plates to their own local police but denies them to federal agents, they are creating an unequal standard that hinders the federal government's ability to carry out its congressionally mandated duties. Then, you have the other side of the aisle, where some legal analysts argue that neither side has a slam-dunk case. They point out that ICE isn't necessarily barred from using standard federal government license plates, which are readily available. So, is this a real constitutional crisis, or is it just the latest chapter in the escalating political warfare between the federal government and sanctuary-leaning states? The implications here are massive. If states can pick and choose which federal operations to assist based on political ideology, the federal government's ability to enforce the law across the nation becomes patchwork. We are seeing a complete breakdown in the standard cooperation that has defined the relationship between the feds and the states for years. If this goes to court, we could be looking at a landmark Supreme Court case that defines the limits of state obstruction in federal immigration enforcement. Will the Supremacy Clause hold up, or will the courts give states more leeway to push back against federal agencies they disagree with? I want to hear from you. Do you believe these states are rightfully protecting their citizens from federal overreach? Or are they playing a dangerous, illegal game that undermines national security? Is it time for the federal government to withhold funding from these states? Or is that taking it too far? Drop your opinion in the comments below. I read every single one. This isn't just about license plates. It's about the balance of power in America. As the DOJ gears up for a potential legal showdown, we'll be right here covering every step of the way. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next update.